when
That
she
is
gets
our
a
job
choice.
in life, isn't it? Let's face it. Anyway, right. Well, congratulations. Well, world record breaking run for Ireland, north to south. How is recovery going? Apart from the
Yeah,
nitpicking.
yeah, apart from the nits. It is crazy. It's really interesting. I've just kind of come off messaging with Camille Herron, who is one of the few people that actually understand
Mm,
what's going on. I think it's quite scary. She's come off obviously going to have world record 6 day run, and there aren't many people that do these kind of things on so little sleep. And I absolutely understand the recovery from 24. I know
mm,
I've got 6 to 8 weeks of low HRV, but I feel back to it and I can get back into training. And my HRV is chronically low. I still haven't had, I'm 2 weeks on, I still haven't had a night of good quality sleep.
mm.
My resting heart rate's above 60. It's normally about 48. My HRV is 25 versus about 50. And it's a nervous system recovery. And
Yeah.
my body feels tight, but it feels good. And I've got a bit of a knee injury I picked up kind of 150 miles in. So I had to run 200 miles on a knee injury from the camber. But it's that nervous system recovery that is just unknown,
Mm,
I think. And I'm just trying to work out what can I do to accelerate it. And I'm not sure there is much acceleration. And
yeah.
that's quite difficult to deal with when I'm really missing the structure of my week and I'm missing my runs straight after school drop off before I start work and feeling quite lost, I think, in all of it. But we're only 2 weeks in.
Yes.
So it's difficult. I've got plans in place and I'm enjoying some hiking and I'm trying to think, well, actually, if I can't do this, then what can I do instead? And what have I missed out on? And going out with friends and doing walks with friends and things. But it's, I don't think I quite contemplated how long this was going to take and I guess the ongoing impact on the rest of my year.
Mm. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, physiologically, it's the lack of sleep almost more than the physical aspect of running in a way, isn't it? I mean, do you feel you could run now,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you don't because you
yeah,
couldn't?
I think that's where the whole back is. And I think kind of when I said I had a knee injury, Coach Eddie was like, that's brilliant. That'll stop you running for a while. And I think once the knee's fixed in a couple of weeks, the temptation will be to go out running and run fast and have fun. And if I do that, then the recovery is even longer. So
Mm.
it's trying to be strict and think about how do I get myself back to the point I can train hard again? And the risk is that my body thinks that it's running down 350 miles and goes into shock again. And there just doesn't seem to be much science and evidence on this and protocols. And I'm trying to find them and say, how do I recover quicker from this? But I can't find it. So it's just patience, which is not something most runners have a lot of. And I certainly don't.
No,
So
and you'll be paranoid that you're losing fitness while you're recovering.
it's all, but I mean, I'd already planned. I've got nothing that I'm massively passionate about until the World Championships next October.
Okay.
And so that's quite good in a way. And I plan to spend the summer in the and hiking and I'm going to do the ETMB route with my hubby in 6 weeks' time, just over 4 days for fun, fast packing, and then TDS for fun at the end of August.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there that I have to train hard for.
Okay.
Train, I guess, do the faster training for, but it's still that frustration that I can't do it. And even though the body says one thing and the nervous system says another, and that's just a very strange disconnect to live with, I think.
Mm. Is what factors can you actually measure? Is it just HRV? Is there anything else you can actually measure to see how your recovery is going?
Resting heart rate, I think, is the other one. And I'm not an expert on any of this. I think I've understood my body so much based on having HRV and based on it tells me I'm sick before I know it, I'm sick.
Mm.
I think I use my Garmin for like to dictate most of like what I do on my daily basis, which is a bit strange. but it does seem to, even though how active, often I've been have a super active day and haven't eaten that much. And I look at my Garmin as to how many calories I've burnt. It's like, I'm really underfueled. I need to actually go and have a bigger dinner than I expected, for example. So I think the HRV, it's tracking, and it's always made sense when I'm kind of feeling strong, when I'm not, kind of when I've had a bad night's sleep, it's gone down. When I haven't had a great workout, I'll look at it. But resting heart rate's been the other one that I put on Instagram stories today. I'm doing kind of recovery diaries every few days about how I'm feeling. And I just put a shout out for help. And all these people came to, have you checked your resting heart rate? Are you having magnesium? And it was something I was so on before the run. I was so good at all the supplements, about everything, and I just stopped. And actually, now's the time I need them more than ever. And so I think it's being a bit less lazy and kind of getting back on,
Yeah.
kind of hydrating properly, and doing all the bits around the running that make kind of my body strong and my body kind of healthy.
I'm trying to think. I'm actually trying to look for the. There was a chap who wrote an article for me who's created an HRV app, which he says is more accurate going through the finger pulse.
Oh, I know the one you mean. I think I heard about it.
Yeah.
It seems good enough. It
Yeah.
goes up and down as it should do on the Garmin, but
Well,
it's
I think
just,
the Garmin will be consistent to you, even if it's not particularly accurate.
and it's overnight. It takes
It's
the
going
whole
to
of the
be,
overnight, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, that's really interesting. Has Camille had any sort of tips for you?
I think the time of the recovery, I think going through the first few days was scary because
Mm,
I had night sweats on day 4 and I lost 5 pounds in a day. And it was just is this normal? And
mm,
then 2.5 pounds a day after. Is this normal? And it really is just, it's a long time till you feel normal.
gosh.
And the shorter periods between the races, you could do shorter periods between, say, kind of 50-mile races, 100-mile races, the easier ones, but not these ultra long big guy kind of one, kind of, it's kind of 6 months. So that's been really helpful because I just haven't known
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people to speak to. And it's what I should think about the record, like so many amazing female athletes. Everyone is just so helpful to each other.
Mm,
So kind of I had kind of Carla, who's got the jogger record, kind of helping me and thinking about this. Can Mimi, who had the record, was supportive. Just I'm very lucky I get to chat to lots of amazing women,
mm,
all of whom just are so open and generous in sharing their time, just so we all could have muddled through this together because our bodies are just not studied properly in
no.
science and certainly not in sports science. And we have to make it up as we go along.
That was one of the things that Lululemon was supposed to be doing with Camille, wasn't it? Was sort of creating or starting some form of um analysis, wasn't it, for these sorts of events? I don't suppose they've come up with much yet, though, have they? It's a bit soon.
It's not going to be published. So I was lucky. I wrote an article for Run as well about kind of why kind of women don't close the gap with men on endurance events, and was lucky to speak to the head scientist and project, Trent Stangworth, on. He's a phenomenal to speak to, and they've done so much, and they've got so much data, and it's over the next couple of years that will start to come out, and hopefully, what they have is going to really help kind of women understand their bodies over these longer distances and help us train better, help us race better, help us recover better. And that's really exciting because that will all come together to
Yeah,
help us perform better.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're so dictated by our hormones, aren't we? It's almost yeah, we need to understand the fluctuations as well, don't we?
And I mean, I kind of I track my cycle and really understand my racing and training through it. And I changed my period for anything over 24 hours. And it's not to avoid my period, it's to avoid being in the last week before my period because I can't convert food to energy as
Really?
well as I can in the first 2 weeks. So I timed Ireland to be on day 6 or 7. So very end of the period. But I guess that's the point of my cycle. I'm most like I guess a man with low hormones. But I know that I can convert my fuel really well.
Right.
And I need to eat more.
Mm.
if I was in the latter half of a cycle, which is fine for like a 50-mile race. But when food becomes kind of a limiting factor, when you know your stomach might go, and it did on the last day when I was getting heat exhaustion, you want to optimize as much as you can. And so shifting my period was an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy what we have to do, isn't it? It's actually, yeah. Can you imagine a man just sort of having to consider this sort of stuff before competing? It's just,
Just honestly, just I think when I looked at it, and it's one thing doing a race when you go off on your own, you leave the kind of kids behind. My husband, trying to manage the childcare logistics and having two kids in a camper van with my husband going up one way and
mm,
having the four crew in another van, and that then my daughter was being left with the grandparents, and where would she go and how would they that, and just the packing all the bags for the kids
mm.
as well as packing my bag and packing the crew things, all of that just added up on top of each other. And it was just an enormous amount of work alongside training and so stressful that
And your
I
day
think
job.
when, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is that I have no idea how I did it. And I remember when my husband went and did Ice Ultra, I packed all the stuff for him. And there was no thought about what the kids were doing because he was just going away for a week. And yeah, I think it's not every woman that does it, and it's not every man that kind of has this happen for them and take responsibility. But it feels it's the norm that, when I talk to my friends who are kind of ultra runners and they're going away, they're packing the bags because everything on the lists are done, everything's there, and it's not typically something that men have to think about.
No, no. I remember DNFing a race because I realized I was going to miss the train to get back. I was going to be very slow. And I realized I'm not going to make the train to get me home in time to pick up my daughter from where she was, being looked after. So it was like, yeah, I've got to shelve it. It's like, right, next time I need to take another day off.
Yeah, despite when I did the summer spine, my parents could only look after the kids for a certain period of time, and they're like, this is all you've got. Like, kind of, yes, the race is 7 days long, but you've just got just under 5 because we can't we can't take the kids for another day.
Yes.
So that's how I had to pace the race. I had to actually think about. I remember, the fastest marathon, like I did a 50-mile race, North Downs 50 years ago, and I promised my eldest I'd be home for bedtime, and there was a bus I had to get, and I've been chatting because I chat too much these races, and I'd gone off course and we'd gone wrong. I had to run so fast the last couple of miles to make that bus, grab my bag at the finish line
Oh
because I
no.
couldn't miss that bus because I promised I was going to get home for bedtime. And I mean, it's even kind of, I just was messaging about kind of doing TDS this summer. I I can't go too. It's the opposite. I can't go too fast because the kids want to run across the finish line, and they're not going to want to do that if it's before 6 in the morning. So there's a limit as to, like, if you're faster, just go
Yeah.
to the last checkpoint and take a nap because my
Yes.
husband's like, I'm not getting them up before 6. So don't even think about it. Don't, like, I don't care if you're like podiuming or top 10, whatever. I'm not getting them up before 6.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Oh yeah, planning your yeah finish time around the children. Wonderful. Well, okay. Um, Going back to Ireland, and you mentioned about your nutrition and that you sort of it was the last day that things sort of started to go a bit wrong. I mean, how what on earth do you eat um over such a long distance? I mean, how do you fuel that sort of distance without that amount of sleep?
A lot of jam sandwiches, jam wraps, jam tortilla wraps are my kind of go-to.
Okay.
Um, just basically a tortilla wrap with a load of jam, and it's quite juicy. It's easy to get down. Precision Hydration, actually, they actually crunched all my numbers, so they've got it up as an Instagram post on theirs and my account of the entire menu. Kind of, we
Oh,
put
okay.
down everything I'd had, and it's quite funny when you look at it as a list. So there's a lot of jam wraps. Overnight, I wasn't wanting solids. So there's a lot of kind of gels and chews overnight. There was a lot of caffeine gels, maybe more than I expected because it yeah, we had to put an emergency alert out to all the runners in deepest, darkest cork. So who could get me some caffeine gels? Because I'd almost run
Really?
out. So
Oh,
we had people answering the alert, which is a guy called Sam answered and came around a few miles from me, which was brilliant. But yeah, a lot of those. Then some by the end, it was Mr. Whippy's cornettos and gels was the only thing I could have on the last day. Quite a bit of Red Bull, Coke, Dairy Milks day three. That was what I quite wanted on day three randomly. But there's just a lot of jam wraps, really. If I look at where the calories came from, it was just kind of, would you like a few hummus ones actually? When I wanted savory, I had some hummus wraps, but
yeah.
just and some raw ballet bars. I love those. They're really kind of soft. They go down really easily, and the fruitier gels. But actually, after 48 hours, I'd had so many kind of jelly babies and Haribo and fruity gels that my tongue was quite sore. So then I stopped being able to have kind of fruit-based things and had to go to
Yeah.
the more neutral gels and cheese. So that was something I didn't expect, not that quickly into a race, which is why the ice creams came out.
Okay. And I mean, dare I say it, do the gels and particularly the caffeine gels, do they not end up just going straight through you?
No, they were actually, I think because I was taking them with solids, I always like to have a bit of solids in my stomach, I think as a settling. So if I think about when I started, the first three things, I had three raw velo bars in the first 3 hours. And that was like, let's line the stomach up with something solid. I was also not saying the crew very much, so I didn't want to get the jam wraps. I was kind of more on my own and I could carry them on me. And Kate on the bike could have them. So I think when you mix it with something lining your stomach,
Okay.
it's quite easy. I could definitely not run just on gels. When I run the 24-hour championships, I am half jam sandwich, half kind of half gel slash cheese slash jelly babies. In Taiwan, we found these pre-packaged jam sandwiches that were sealed around the edges. And I went and bought out all they were sold in corner shops. So I went
Oh,
and
wow.
bought out like every corner shop near our hotel.
It's a
And that
thing.
was what I did it must be a thing in Taiwan.
Mm.
They were lovely, like blueberry jam, raspberry jam, strawberry jam, on white bread with no crust. I mean, the ultimate
Oh,
kind of
perfect.
simple carb food
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
running a 24.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's fantastic. And just the lack of sleep. Again, I mean, how do you prepare or train, and then how do you fight it off? I mean, how do you keep going when there must have been moments when you're dead on your feet?
Weirdly, no, there was no moment where I wanted to stop. I think there was a moment where I knew in night two I got really scared because I was losing my vision. And it was my vision was narrowing. It's because I didn't sleep night one. I lay down for 20 minutes, just couldn't get to sleep and thought, right, I just need to get going again.
Mm.
So I hadn't had that until night two. We thought the 30-minute nap would be 2:30 in the morning. And at one, I was really struggling. And that was probably the worst part of the whole race or challenge, I guess it wasn't a race. Um, I needed the van to be brought towards me to get that 30-minute sleep. And as soon as I had that, I was just on again. And then every time I was getting a bit tired, I'd kind of ask Kate, who'd kind of call ahead to the van and say, where is the van? And would chuck out a little thin camping mattress and I just dive down for 10 minutes. And then I'd take a caffeine gel, dive down for 10 minutes. And then once the caffeine gel kicks in 10 minutes, then you've got the benefits of the nap and the caffeine gel and you're running again. It's,
Never.
there was never a time where I thought I needed to stop or wanted to stop, or it was just it never ever crossed my mind, really.
Really? No, you didn't
Um,
have that sort of, oh, my eyes are drooping, I need to stop.
and that for to sleep, I knew I needed to stop to sleep,
Mm.
but never to stop to quit.
Oh, no.
Um,
No, no,
but
no.
for a longer sleep, if I'd had a longer sleep, I would have broken the record.
Mm.
I broke it by 3.5 hours. If you put in a few longer sleeps, that would have been much tighter. And I think on the last day with the heat exhaustion, I needed to really manage my body and manage my speed. And if I'd been very close on the record, that might have been really stressful. I might have pushed too hard and gone over kind of that kind of cliff edge and not finished at all. So the lack of sleep, I don't think you can do any longer than that. I can't personally. I
No.
think do longer than those kind of 3 nights on that kind of sleep. I think you're getting to the point where it's more effective to kind of stage race it and have those 3 hour sleeps every night. That I think is the longest
Yes.
physiologically for me. There may
Mm.
be people that can go much longer, but for me, that's that limited. I think it was 2 hours, 17 minutes over 3 nights. That's not really enough sleep.
No, no. I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, you're pushing the boundaries of what is humanly possible, really, with that, aren't you? Um, that's incredible.
And that's why it's taken me so long to recover.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Um, Going back to the 24-hour champs, you were our only finisher. Because I think the other two, there were only three.
There are four of us.
There were four of you. Okay.
Yeah.
But you were the only one that there wasn't a team result, was there?
No, sadly not.
No. Why do we not have enough females that were sort of able to qualify? Do we need do we need to do a sort of training camp to get women up to scratch? What do you think is needed
I
there?
mean, I mean, they decided only to take 4 women rather than the full six, and I think that was a disappointment because we took 6 men, and
Mm,
initially we were only taking 3 women, and then they added another, and I think we could have had a team there. We could have had six. You need six in a 24 to
mm,
get a good three. It's a 50% chance you have a bad race, and we just had kind of 3 athletes that didn't have great races and decided to pull out rather than kind of risk anymore. And that's why you need six. And six kind of takes the pressure off everyone and you're not kind of pushing so hard. And also then you can have the same we had in the men's where, someone's had a bad start to the race, but then they feel better later and then they can help pace
yes.
the three top kind of scoring athletes.
Yeah.
And that's what we had. And the men's team worked so brilliantly together. And
Mm,
I know we can have that for the women's team if we can get six, and it's in Albi next year. It's France. We should be able to get 6 athletes there. I just love, more women we've got a lot of women doing 24s. I think it'd be great to get some of the really good 100-mile runners, 100
mm,
mile trail runners coming across to try to do a 24 to qualify.
yeah.
Um, there isn't 100, I guess it's not 100-mile trail GB best, and it's a very special thing to represent your country and be part of this. And you learn so much. And one of the great things is you have access to, all the insight knowledge from British athletics. So we had all these brilliant experts, and kind of Jamie was on heat protocols that I didn't know about, and saunering kind of before the race and how I do that, and ice packs I had ice pack on in Taiwan when it was cold at 3 in the morning
You had
because I was
standing.
overheating, and it really helped. So I learned so much about myself as an athlete being part of the team, and it's a kind of um great feeling. So yeah, I'd love to see. I'm working behind the scenes. I'm trying to get more women to qualify and try it out. There's not many races you can do to qualify. The big ones, I think, are Tooting in I think September and kind of Crawley. You can do it all around the world, but it's always easiest to do it close to home. But yeah, if anyone anyone wants to have a go and needs any tips, then please contact me because I just love to have a really full, strong team,
Yeah.
and then really kind of have a good shot of a team medal.
Mm. What are the qualifications that you have to do it apart from, I mean, is there a certain time you've got to do it in?
So it's not out yet for next year. I think it was supposed to come out a couple of weeks ago, but last year for the world for a team place, it was 215 kilometers, and for a individual place, so if they weren't going to take a team, would they pick you as an individual, was 225 kilometers.
Okay. Well, that's ballpark figures that people can aim for, isn't it? Mm. Oh, well, fingers crossed. Yes, yes. Do get in touch with Sophie if anyone's interested. That would be, yeah, it'd be great to have a full team, as you say, yeah, it becomes so much more cohesive and you help each other. And she races, your baby. That's
My fourth child. It's basically my fourth child.
It is, but I mean
Maybe it's my first child. The others would probably say it's my first child.
No, but that's really gone from strength to strength, and you've just achieved so much already with it.
It is great. I mean, it's crazy. I guess kind of UTMB, that kind of picture of me was almost 6 years ago, and I started campaigning for pregnancy deferrals,
Yeah.
straight after, when I realized that there was just no way I should have been on that start line. And then, but She Races itself it's just turned two. Should have had a party. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was in Ireland. I was in Ireland.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not very good at the whole events and parties side of it and celebrating, because it's all about get your head down. There's so much to do. But the change in just 2 years in awareness
Mm.
on things like t-shirts and period products and separating the male race from the female race in the results and giving equal coverage in media and looking at imagery and realizing that it's not very attractive to most runners to only show the fast men on your website. And there's so many bits, and we've got kind of a 9 points that every race has to do to kind of for the guidelines, and it's almost all free and just all a no-brainer. And sometimes I look at some of the guidelines and go, these are all so obvious, and then you realize they are, because I've done all the research and we've had over 2,000 women kind of do kind of these detailed kind of questionnaires on what they've seen, what can be improved, and women of kind of all speeds, kind of distances, ages, kind of backgrounds, and that's been so helpful. But there's still so much to do. I think we look at kind of certainly trail running in the UK and the ultra scene. Most races are kind of doing kind of what we need. But we've still got a lot of the road events that we're now kind of signing up, which is great. And it's going international, which is really exciting.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it's just a lack of resource, I think. Kind of we need to kind of find some greater kind of funding to enable us to really kind of move forward and do more of what we need to do. So it's yeah, it's there's a lot to do,
Yeah.
but we're driving so much change, and we're seeing the events, and it's all the messages we get from women who kind of have got the pregnancy deferral for their dream race, or they've kind of or they've DNF because there were no period products and that stopped them competing, or things that the kind of are really like barriers that we can take away. It's I mean, we can't remove the barrier that women do most of the childcare and carrying responsibilities. We can't alone say kind of get the confidence into women who've been assumed since we were kind of as young as 5 that we're not as good at sport at men, and we don't have the kind of the confidence to try things. But we can take away basic barriers to doing these races, and that alone kind of seems to make such a difference. So no, I'm really excited. We're moving to do some extra research into kind of triathlon. We want to do some more research into kind of the runners that don't race, that kind of are running but kind of don't have the confidence to try races, or want to go up the distance, or kind of more towards the back of the pack, and how we can increase the kind of diversity amongst women. So there's so much to do. It's all
Yeah.
really exciting. I guess because I have this long recovery, I might get a bit more time. I put all my running time into She Races now. We might accelerate it a bit, but no, it's brilliant, and I kind of urge everyone to kind of have a look at their website, sheraces.com, kind of tell races that are brilliant to sign up, because then we can get more women on those start lines. And races are businesses. They need more runners, and if race directors, they are almost universally so engaged by it, and they make those changes because as soon as they understand why,
Mm.
it's a very simple thing to do. So
Yes.
yeah, it's exciting, but it is also, I feel the pressure because you have so many messages in, and there's only so much time in the day, and we don't have that much support. So hopefully we can get some more funding in and really start to expand this year.
Well, that brings us full circle, really, to one of the reasons why you did the record, was to raise funds for She Races. So that is still open, I believe. You can still
Yes.
donate.
On my Instagram, ultra underscore Sophie, there's a link in bio. and or there's another different way on the She Races website. But yeah, no, we'd appreciate everything. I think we've a lot of the women that kind of have been helped by She Races have been donating, which is fantastic. But really, it's kind of anyone that believes that we should have there shouldn't be a barrier to women being on start lines.
I'll share the link as well when I share this podcast. So on that note, thank you very much for your time tonight, Sophie. I really appreciate it. I'm sure you've got children that are probably scampering around needing to go to bed, or
I've got two just walked in the door from hockey practice, and then my daughter is like kind of like stuck on the iPad. I mean, it's always like that. That's just the life there is. And I'm gonna go, right, okay. I could pretend that I'm kind of like lock myself in this room and then kind of pretend that I'm doing work. So my husband has to do bedtime, but there's only so many times I can get away with that.
Someone's going to walk in, you know that. Someone's going to walk in and go, Sophie.
She's asleep on the floor. She's just taking like yet another power nap. I mean, I have to nap every day at the moment still, and often the kids just find me and I'm just asleep.
Really?
I just left. I like get in from school, pick everyone up, and I'm like, guys, I'm gonna be upstairs for a nap. You guys can watch anything you want. Okay, within reason, within the child locks for like the next 20 minutes, and then I'll come and get you.
That's fantastic. Well, good luck with the rest of your recovery. I hope it goes well. And yeah, we'll see you back out there soon.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Take care.